What's up Visuals fam, and welcome to another computer build video. So today we're going to be building a system that I consider the sweet spot for 1080p gaming, and that is also capable of light 1440p gaming as well. Now, before you go nuts thinking that this is going to cost you a fortune, I'll tell you that this awesome budget rig is only going to cost you just under 650 bucks. Intrigued? Well, let's roll that intro and get right into it. Let's go. So you just finished your new build and you're stoked it even turned on, right? But wait, you didn't fit a Windows license in your budget to get it up and running. Look, we've all been there, but CDKOffers has your back on this one. CDKOffers has game and software codes available for awesome prices and can really help you out in keeping that new PC build budget down. They have Windows 10 Pro OEM available for just 17 bucks. Even better, you can use my promo code RAV20 to save even more. All you have to do is find the product you want, add it to your cart, view the cart, type in my promo code RAV20, and see that price go down even further. Check the links in the video description to learn more. And now, like I said, the build isn't sponsored, but it is supported by the folks over at Gamdias once again. We've worked with them before, and they sent me over their Apollo E2 mid-tower case and a 4-pack of their Aeolus M2 124R case and radiator fans. So special shout out to them for sending me these products for the build, and since they were so gracious to send me these, let's take a closer look at them. Starting with the Apollo E2 mid-tower case, you get a very cool looking mid-range case with a tempered glass window and a front bezel that is also tempered glass that provides a view to the pair of massive 200mm fans at the front of the case. The Apollo E2 also has ample I/O at the top of the case, including your power and reset, a dedicated LED button to change the color of your fans, which can also be synced to your motherboard by holding down the button for 3 seconds. You have a mic and headphone input, 2 USB 2s, and 1 USB 3. Now, I'm not sure why they went with that configuration. I would have preferred just 3 USB 3s, but hey, I'm picky. Anyway, the case has a magnetic dust filter at the top and can support up to 8 120mm fans. It can also accommodate a 280 or 240mm radiator at the top or the front, and it can support a 120mm radiator at the back. Moving on to the Aeolus M2 124Rs, you get a 4-pack of trio RGB ring fans that are fully customizable and addressable. You can sync them to your motherboard and other components via an RGB header, or you can use the included hub to daisy chain all your fans and LED strips together and control them with the included remote control. This control has a ton of very cool effects, and it really sets off the look of your case. And now these fans aren't just made to make your case look cool, as they are rated at 56 CFM and use hydraulic bearings to stay silent while keeping your components nice and chilly. Now let's look at the other components we'll be using in today's build. Starting with the CPU, we'll be choosing the Ryzen 5 2600. Now this was for a couple reasons. One, being that the new Ryzen 3000 chips that I wanted to use, the 3100 or the 3300X, are so hard to find right now for a decent price, and they're usually out of stock. I really wanted to make that Ryzen 3 3300X work for this build, but simply couldn't find one at the time of picking these parts. And two, the chip is still a budget killer in builds like these for a very affordable price, so I figured it would fit the bill. For RAM, we went with a 16GB kit of 3200 MHz Team T-Force Vulcan Z. Now, I've used these DIMMs in many of my budget builds before, so you guys have probably seen these before, and I always seem to find them for a great price. For the motherboard, we went with the Asus Prime B450M because at the time of purchasing, it was cheap, had all the features that I wanted, and most of all, seemed to have the latest BIOS installed so that if I wanted to use a Ryzen 3000 series chip, I could have done that. Now, you can always go with B550 now too if you can find it for cheap, but right now, all I'm seeing is a lot of B450 boards, so that's what I would suggest. Now, our GPU choice today is the MSI Ventus XS OC GTX 1660. Now, you guys have seen me absolutely play out the 1650 Super on this channel so far, so I wanted to take it a bit further with a bit better of a card so that we were able to squeeze this one in the budget now. Now, this card should give us the horsepower to game at high refresh rates at 1080p, and we can even play at 1440p. Now, obviously, pushing maybe 60 frames, but still, in certain titles, we can play at 1440p if we want to with this card. card. For storage, we went with a Silicon Power 855 512GB SSD. Now, I always like to make sure I have an SSD in my budget builds, as it makes everything snappier in Windows, and this drive will get that job done. And lastly, for the PSU, I went with the Thermaltake Smart RGB 500 watt. I actually found this on the used market for a bit cheaper, but even at retail, they're a good deal for a budget system. They are 80+ certified, and they seem to work pretty well for budget builds. And now, one more note, you have another choice here still with this build. So if you are the person that may not exactly have the full budget for the PC that we're going to be building today, maybe you have a couple $100 less, you can also choose the Ryzen 3 3200G and save $30 to $40 on the processor, and then you can also save about $200 on the GPU and game with just the integrated graphics on that Ryzen processor until you can afford a dedicated GPU. So I always suggest this option, as it will turn this $650 build basically into a $400 build for someone who may be on a little bit of a tighter budget. Anyway, all parts and some other options will be listed with my Amazon links down below, so if you're wanting to get these parts, it'll be super easy for you. Now you know what's next. Let's go ahead and build this sucker. Alright, so as far as building this thing, it went super smoothly. Building in the Apollo E2 from Gamdias was a very pleasing experience for the most part, with just one or two caveats for me. So first, for some of the cable routing options on the back, they were a little bit weird, but it made up for it with the fact that you really don't have to cable manage very much at all in this case. Honestly, at the end there, I kind of just pushed all the cables in. You could just slap the back end of the case on and you're pretty much good to go. One other thing is just those pesky Breakaway PCIe covers. Now, I saw this in their last case they sent me too. You got to be careful with these, because if you accidentally break the wrong PCI cover off, you're basically out of luck, and now you're stuck with a hole in the back of your case that kind of looks kind of funny. But other than that stuff, everything was awesome and worked perfectly. As I booted up, I installed Windows and I got everything set up. And just so you guys are aware, I did make sure the XMP profile was turned on, so our RAM was running at the full 3200 megahertz that it's supposed to, and I used Asus's Quick Tune to give our Ryzen 5 2600 a slight overclock on the stock cooler to 3900 megahertz, which ended up working out very well. I did not overclock the 1660, but if you were so inclined, you could probably squeeze some more FPS out of this build with a few tweaks in MSI Afterburner. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on with the benchmarks. As always, the first benchmark I always run is 3D Mark, and I always use this to give myself a baseline of what to expect with the games we'll be testing. In Firestrike, this build had a score of 12,037, which is very good for a PC in this price range, and in Time Spy, we scored 5,526, which is also not a bad score given the hardware we have on board. Now next, I'd usually test CSGO, but it wasn't playing nice with MSI Afterburner today, so we had to implement a new esports shooter into the game and into my benchmarks, and now this game that I've been playing lately is called Rogue Company. Now this game is still in beta, but it is tons of fun, and this computer was absolutely crushing it with almost a steady 150 FPS, which I believe is the cap for this game right now in beta, but this was with all of the settings maxed out as well, so it's already looking like a very well optimized game and was a super smooth playing experience, and I didn't notice a single issue with it. Next, I went ahead and fired up some Valorant to see how we could fare at 1080p max settings. This PC had no issues staying above 200 FPS and higher while I was playing around a spike rush in this game, and this allowed me to really concentrate on my game, get a few kills, and all in all have a very awesome gaming experience while playing some Valorant. Moving on, we tested one of my favorite games, Doom Eternal. And this PC absolutely loves itself some Doom Eternal, okay? This is one of the most smooth performances I've seen lately in my PC builds, and it was averaging around 155 plus FPS with a few dips here and there, but mostly just staying very smooth and allowing you to concentrate on ripping and tearing to your heart's content. After that, we put our build up against the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark with high settings at 1080p, and lately, I've just been seeing my PC builds honestly get destroyed by this benchmark, but this little PC wasn't having it, as we were able to average 85 FPS throughout the run, and this made the next two benchmarks look very, very promising. Moving over to Red Dead Redemption 2, I got some very surprising results, as this is the game that usually breaks builds, but this one was definitely the exception, with the FPS never dropping below 60. Yes. It's making this build an absolute wonder to play RDR2 at 1080p optimized settings. I didn't notice any stutters this time, and everything looked as smooth as silk throughout the entire run, and it's very cool that I finally got a budget build to play this game at a solid 60 FPS and higher. And lastly, you know we had to jump into some Call of Duty and enter the war zone, where we were getting just under 100 FPS with optimized settings at 1080p, and this again was a very smooth experience, and I didn't see any issues while moving around the map, finding some enemies to down, shooting them down, and running away, having a great old time. As this is one of the most popular games out there, it is very nice to see this PC doing so well with it. Alright everyone, so that is it for our $650 budget build PC. So tell me what you guys think of the PC down below in the comments, and if you guys would have made any changes, or if you guys are going to be building a PC that's similar, let me know down in the comments below. You know, toss some ideas around with your fellow Visuals fam members, and get some conversations going down there in the comments section. And if you guys really did enjoy this video, please make sure you guys give it a like. And if you guys are not part of the Visuals fam and you guys want to join one of the best communities out there, make sure you guys get subscribed and turn those notifications on. That way you'll always know when a new video or a new stream that I do will be going live. But until the next one, I will see you guys all later. Peace.